This Malayalam dark comedy film has scarred me for life. It's impossible to believe that it's a sequel to a cute family drama. I can never look at a pressure cooker the same way at all. So how well did they execute? Let's talk about Bharathanatyam 2 Mohiniyattam, written and directed by Krishnadas Murali. I got so many requests to check out this movie when it released, but it wasn't available near me. So by that time I checked out the first one, which I've reviewed on the channel. And when the film dropped on Netflix, everyone was like, go check it out, react to it. And that is why it got so late. But the reaction is coming soon on the Reacts channel, so do look out for that. Now, having seen the first one, this sequel almost directly starts from where we left off. It almost felt like I'm watching an episode 2 of a series. We do get a visual recap at the start of the film with the opening credits, and I was quite fresh with the film. And it makes sense that they do that because the story directly connects from the first to the second. I don't really think you can watch part 2 without watching part 1. Maybe you can, but I would not advise, because the story is almost a follow-up within days. And in this next chapter, an event is happening in the life of these characters which just lasts few days, and because of that it becomes a very plot heavy film instead of a character heavy film, and thus you don't really have time to create character arcs. Maybe if in the first films they had left some things unresolved, they could have carried them forward, and they did that for one of the storylines, but it wasn't a big one. So in the first film they kind of wrap it up emotionally as well, and I'm sure the sequel was not planned. It wasn't that they knew this is what they'll make after the first one, and that's why you do feel the absence of an emotional journey for the characters. Now, it was very bold of them to take a family drama that they have created and turn it into a dark comedy. It could really go wrong, but they managed it well. And they also took a plot point which is very bold for the sensitive times we live in. And actually that made it show that Bollywood would never remake this. Even if they attempt, the censor board will never release it. But if you look at it, it's not a very problematic issue. I'm sure such things happen a lot of times at a lot of places in our country. Over the ages, many people would have made up their own stories which have today become myth, become a legend. And it was really hilarious the way they portrayed that in the animation sequence, that just a single interaction was enough to establish a whole temple that people come and pray to. That's how blind faith works. But the way they used this point to set up the conflict for the family, that was pretty interesting, and that really connects to the theme of the previous film also, the legacy of the father, the pride of the family is at stake again. And it was very clear that the act the father had committed, it would not be forgiven by any of them. But now that he has passed away, they maybe let it go, but because of him they have faced the turmoil. Because of the mistake he made, the whole family has to suffer. But by the end of the first film, they end up embracing that. Instead of keep suffering because of what the father had done, they let it go and accepted it to live a better life. But now, even after his death, he is causing more trouble. And here the film brings up a very interesting question. Who feels more shame, the dead or the alive? Is it more important to save the legacy of a person who has passed away? It doesn't matter what people think about him anymore, at least for the person who has gone. Or is it more shameful for the person who's alive, who's around, who will face the consequences of what has been done? Not just narrative wise, even technically the film took a sharp turn. Visually, the way they approached this film is very unique, which is something I actually noticed in the trailer when I first time watched it, when I had not seen the original film. The colors are very bright, saturated. They've used that fisheye lens at many places. Most of the times the family is framed together. The way they have used the lighting at many places, the way they have used the shadows to create tension, to create drama, and to the composition and editing also, they have created a lot of humor. And coming to the humor, there is a big difference between the way the first film deals with it and the way the second film deals with it. In the first film, the humor was totally situational. Everything that happened in that film was pretty much grounded. You believe that these people exist, that family pride is everything to them. They care about what the society will think about them, and they will take it very far to be protected from that judgment. And the way the film does it just nailed it. Whereas the humor in the sequel is very out there. It is orchestrated. It is totally laid out. We have the characters acting funny to make you laugh. That is how they are creating that humor. This time the characters have very extraordinary features. They act very abnormally, which makes them stand apart and deliver that humor. Be it the Subhash Jr. this time, the way he looks at the family with his wide eyes, always observing them, trying to find out what they're hiding. Then we had Vinay Fortt playing a stupid inspector so well. At no point it became cringe. The whole family from the first film, they carried their characters really well. But for me, the standout has to be Suraj's character, especially when he doesn't have lines and doesn't have any emotions. If you know, you know. Now from the trailer, it was pretty obvious that the film is a dark comedy. It almost felt like a parody of Drishyam, and they pretty much directly, reference it in the film. And thus, in the film, I could anticipate what's coming next. It became a bit predictable. And from Drishyam, we know how such a big incident can impact a simple family. It is very tragic, but that's not the way this film is going. But I did feel that this incident actually didn't leave any impact on this family, because the way they were behaving, it didn't feel like a life-changing experience. It just felt like they dealt with it very easily and they moved on. I wish, they were more moments of the family losing it. It breaks them apart and then they come together to fight it. At some moments, logically also, the film left me with a lot of questions. The family very easily trust other people with their secret. Now, bringing a very pivotal character from the first film back was a very interesting idea, making it Subhash versus Subhash, two people who love poking their nose going against each other. But the way it happens, it doesn't make sense. Because as I said, the first movie and this movie, it's just happening between few days. So how suddenly the antagonist of the first film easily comes and becomes, such a pivotal part of the family that is helping them. And they are okay to share such a big secret with it. What if it backfires? So, it just felt too convenient. And there are multiple moments like this in the film. Now, for me personally, I may be an odd one out here, but I prefer part 1 more than part 2. Just because the simplicity first part had. I talked in my review for that film that, at so many points, they could have taken that easy route of, creating humor, creating confusion, creating chaos. They had all that potential, but they didn't do it. They kept it simple. When it is easy to go all out. That made that film special for me. That's what was enduring about it. Whereas a sequel just goes all out. It wants to be crazy. And in doing that, they take that traditional route. And they did that because it works. People enjoy it more. It gets more laugh. The film did way better in theaters. There is a proof to that method. And there was a recent big Malayalam film that didn't take that traditional route, and we know the result. Check out this video for more on that. But do let me know your thoughts about this film in the comments below. What are your takes? The reaction will be coming soon. It was really fun. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.